In news just in, Public Enterprises Minister Pravin Gordhan is rubbishing the findings of Public Protector Busisiwe Mkhwebane. We've also heard a statement from the EFF saying that given the findings, the President needs to sack Pravin Gordhan. There's reaction coming in as well from Ivan Pillay, of course linked to the rogue unit. He's saying that the Public Protector does not understand how SARS operates. Both our reporters Maloko Moloto and Semkele Maseko are following the story for us. They join us now live in studios. Maloko, you were at the Public Protector's media briefing earlier. First, let's talk about her findings.
Well, the findings, as they relayed mainly on the establishment of the so-called rogue unit within SARS, mainly are more about the fact that Minister Pravin Gordhan at the time was the commissioner of SARS. And the public protector says the establishment of that rogue unit was in violation of the constitution, but also the law that regulates intelligence gathering in South Africa, because she says only the president can appoint as an investigating unit that deals with intelligence. And now she went on to say that the former SARS Deputy Commissioner Ivan Pillay was appointed to that position without him having proper qualifications. And when she talked about the operations of the unit itself, she essentially said it was spying on people's activities unlawfully. For instance, if you read at how, for instance, where she says, I have evidence before me which indicates that during the June 2007 until November 2007, Mr. Pillay and Mr. Janse van Rensburg irregularly procured services of certain Mr. Lombard and Mr. Duval to intercept communication within the NPA as well as the DSO. These are the Scorpions. This they did without getting the judge's authorization. And when it came to the issue of Minister Gordhan having said in Parliament that he has never met with any of the Gupta brothers, she found that actually the minister deliberately misled Parliament, because it emerged in an affidavit that was presented before the Zondo Commission that in fact he once met one of the Gupta brothers, and apparently the response from the minister was that I forgot. He had to be reminded by Dondoma Rajani, who is the DG of Treasury now. At the time he was the Chief of Staff, and the minister, the Public Protector, saying she found it unbelievable that the minister could forget ever meeting one of the Guptas.
Saying he violated the ethics code, actually. So let's take a listen to what the Public Protector had to say with regards to the so-called rogue unit.
Evidence indicates that even prior to Mr. Gordhan's memorandum to Minister Manuel, who was the Minister of Finance then, SARS had already begun operating a unit that gathered information covertly. However, as the accounting officer, Mr. Gordhan should have been aware, and I believe was aware, that the unit had already started operating. Mr. Pillay reported directly to Mr. Gordhan as Commissioner of SARS. The establishment of the unit with the approval of Mr. Gordhan as the accounting officer was in breach of Section 209 of the Constitution, in terms of which only the President may establish such a covert information gathering unit. I further note that Mr. Mahashula has misrepresented himself under oath by denying the existence of the intelligence unit, even if the unit was never called the rogue unit at SARS. The operations and functions of the CBCU, a unit that existed, were similar. The conduct of Mr. Gordhan, as referred to, again, is in violation of Section 209 of the Constitution.
And then, of course, Kayla, a strongly worded statement on behalf of Public Enterprises Mr. Pravin Gordhan.
Interestingly, yes, the Minister of Public Enterprises is basically saying that the Public Protector is biased, and he's basically expressed his misgivings about the Public Protector in this particular position. The part of the statement which I find very interesting is when the Minister basically is said on his behalf that the Minister has stated unequivocally that he is unreservedly committed to uphold the Constitution and the rule of law, whilst respecting the office of the Public Protector and cooperating with their investigations. Minister Gordhan, like many others, has recorded his misgivings about the incumbent and her conduct and her partiality, basically saying that the public protector advocate Busisiwe Mkhwebane is biased, and she doesn't have the best interest at heart, and is basically serving some interests that are foreign and that he is not aware of. He basically goes on to further to say it is now possible for the public protector's investigation and the report proposed remedial action to be scrutinized by the courts. Minister Gordhan has instructed his legal representatives to consider the public protector's report upon receipt and to prepare for an urgent review. So basically, Minister Pravin Gordhan wants an urgent review of the public protector's report, which basically there's remedial action that the president must act against us. So he's basically wanting to take it under review and has expressed his misgivings on the office of the public protector, in particular Advocate Busisiwe Mkhwebane.
Maloko, it's important to point out that the public protector found that there was dodginess when it came to the rogue unit, but the Nugent Commission found otherwise, saying it was above board.
Interestingly, the public protector says that the Nugent Commission did not have the powers to investigate how that unit was established. What she says she did was she went deep down, interrogated legislations that are in place. And interestingly, Ivan Pillay, the former Deputy SARS Commissioner, is also saying that the public protector lacks knowledge of how SARS works. And also remember that the president was given about 30 days to discipline Pravin Gordhan. And interestingly, the EFF now says he must fire Minister Pravin Gordhan. So the gloves are off. I mean, if you read what the public protector, when she ended her statement, said, she quoting from the Bible, the book of Esther chapter 4, she says, "And so I will go to the king, which is against the law, and if I perish, I perish."
Wow. All right, so let's talk about the EFF statement a bit more on Pravin Gordhan. Of course, they were very quick to release the statement just now as we got into air, and that's why it's breaking news if you are just joining us. Of course, information releases from both Pravin Gordhan as well as the EFF and Ivan Pillay, all in response to the findings of the public protector. She found that the SARS rogue unit was not above board. She also found against Pravin Gordhan, saying that he violated the ethics code when it came to whether or not he met the Gupta family. So Samkele Maseko is looking at the reaction press releases that we do have in our possession right now. Let's look at the EFF in particular. Sam, what are they saying?
The most key important point, his rise to power is based on mafia tactics, intimidation and criminality. He must be held accountable. In fact, operating an illegal intelligence unit within the state is tantamount to treason, which is the highest order of betrayal. Gordhan, together with his gang, violated constitutional rights of individuals by invading their privacy. They essentially arrogated themselves the power that they do not and should never had. Basically saying that this is the highest form of treason. This is treasonous. This deserves the highest punishment in the land. And basically going on as far as to saying that the president must act with immediate effect and remove Pravin Gordhan from cabinet. Well, there's the love lost between the EFF and Minister Pravin Gordhan has been out in the public domain. You've had Julius Malema, the commander-in-chief of the EFF, going to saying that both Trevor Manuel and Pravin Gordhan are serving the establishment. They are serving white monopoly capital. They don't have the interest of South Africans at heart. Julius Malema at times even going back to his tenure with his own SARS rose and the shenanigans that happened in the Limpopo province, where we had the then Minister of Finance, Pravin Gordhan, coming into that province saying that people will be arrested. Malema going to saying that till today nobody has been arrested with that particular matter. Julius Malema at some point with Floyd Shivambu, the EFF deputy president, and Godrich Gadi approached the Brooklyn police station with a dossier of information which they claimed that Pravin Gordhan was basically soliciting and taking money offshore from South Africa, illicit money flows to his Canadian bank account, which they are yet to prove obviously on that particular matter. We've seen the spat between the two of them, but they are basically saying that they respect the public protector's report. It should be upheld, and the president should implement the remedial action of the public protector with immediate effect and fire Pravin Gordhan from
So,
cabinet.
Maloko, they're also saying that they're calling on the commissioner of the SAPS to promptly implement the remedial action, and they quoted as saying that within 60 days to investigate the criminal conduct of Pravin Gordhan and Pillay, Ivan Pillay that is, and of course take action in that regard. So take us through the remedial action, more of what the public protector wants to happen in the next 2 months.
Well, when the police must first investigate the criminality which the public protector suggests that existed within the SARS when it established firstly that particular rogue unit, but also the operations thereof. There were also allegations that the procurement of services, goods and services, they would just go and get IT services without issuing out a tender for competitive bidding. But what is also interesting, Shahan, of course, the police must also investigate the interception of communication. Another important thing is that in the reaction by the Minister of Public Enterprises and Mr. Evan Pillay, both of them are saying that they were never furnished with copies of the report before it was published. Now, I did make a quick call to the Office of the Public Protector to say, why did you not do it? Are you under any obligation by law to do that? They are saying there's no provision in the law that says furnish the people who are implicated with the report before you release it. It's more tantamount to saying that the judge, before handing down judgment, must hand down that judgment to the implicated people. And Upa Seralwe said that the spokesperson of the public protector, that in the past they would issue the so-called preliminary report, giving it to implicated people to comment. They no longer do that. Otherwise, they issue the so-called section notice 7-9, which allows you as implicated person to comment, and all the people implicated were given that.
All right, we're going to leave it right there.